Hi, welcome back. This is Annie Lupton of Boho Chic Fiber Co. And today this is my second vlog. I decided that I'm going to name it just Knitting with Annie. So this is episode 2 of Knitting with Annie. And today what I'm gonna do is chat with you a little bit about my upcoming design. I think by the time I post this, it'll have just released. So that's behind me right here. And I also have a few questions from people who submitted them. And so I'll go through those and we'll kind of go from there. And if you had trouble submitting a question with the form, I'm gonna have that link below again in the show notes. And if you want to, if you can't submit a question for some reason, just put a little message, like a comment below, and I'll try to figure out. A couple people had trouble with the form, so I want to make sure that it's not the majority of you. So yeah, so just leave me a note there, and we'll just dive right in. So my latest design is this sweater right here. It's called Lola Chic, and I knit it with Lola Bean Yarn Co.'s DK weight yarn. And this is what her tags look like. And Adela is the dyer of the yarns. And so I'll just chat and tell you a little bit about the design. So this one is slightly cropped and it tapers in at the waist. So you're working from the bottom up as you knit, but it's going to like taper out as you go up so that the bust is fairly fitted, and the waist is fairly fitted as well. And it has a dropped shoulder, so there's no shaping for the armholes or anything like that. It's really simple. Afterwards, you just do some neck row shaping up top. And then after you seam the shoulders together, you're going to be picking up sleeves and working them down out from the body. And yep, I knit this one in the round up to the sleeves. And it features a brand new colorway that Adela dyed up. She named it Boho Chic, which is really fun. I kind of challenged her. I gave her a picture of a dress, and it's the one that I wore in the photo shoot. And she kind of came up with this yarn. It's really pretty. I think I have one more skein left of it. Yep, so this is the yarn that she dyed up. It's called Boho Chic, I believe. And she is going to have a whole run of these when the pattern releases. And I will leave a link to her website below for you in case you're interested in snagging some. And basically the design on the front, it has a really simple texture in the whole front center here. And then there's 2 cables that run up the sides that are my favorite kind of cable. They're little braids that run up. So it's really easy to knit, very simple. The whole back is in stockinette. So you're really just, between the chart, you're just like focusing on this one little part that has anything going on and the rest is stockinette. So it's a really fun knit. I think it fits really nicely and I hope to see some of them pop on your needles soon. And yeah, so that's my latest design. And in case you're wondering, I'm wearing my Sea Glass and Driftwood sweater today. This one's knit up in Brooklyn Tweed Peary yarn, fingering weight. And this is one of my absolute favorites as well. It's just a really fun color work pattern, and then the sleeves are solid. It's a great one. And you can find this one on Ravelry, and I can link it below for you as well. So yeah, I guess we'll dive into a few of your questions, and hopefully I have some helpful answers for you today. So the first question I got was, what are your favorite yarns, or your favorite yarn it was, but it's really hard to choose like one specific yarn. I don't know, I don't have like one favorite. But basically, I love anything that is 100% wool and not like chemically treated to be superwash. Like this is a superwash and it's great for speckles. And so in my mind, like I like certain projects for it. But just any day if I was picking out a yarn that I want to use, I usually gravitate towards a non-superwash wool. And I personally like solids or semi-solids as well, just because I feel like the patterns that I like to knit, like this has like more intricate kind of color work. Sometimes they have more intricate stitch patterns, and I feel like it usually turns out better if the tone is either exactly the same, like commercially dyed, or if it's just like tonally dyed, so it's like one main color. And that's just what I like personally. And basically I love anything Brooklyn Tweed puts out. I'm like obsessed with. Like I said, this one's Brooklyn Tweed. I knit a lot of designs in their yarns. I just really love the feel of it. The tactile nature of yarn is like the most important thing to me. So I do love their yarns. One yarn that I am kind of obsessing over right now, I grabbed a few out to show you. I just ordered some more, is it's Barrett Wool Co. and it's their home worsted. They also have a fingering weight, and I'll kind of show you these up close. It's hard to like see. It's really like how amazing they feel. I believe it's all, I can't remember what kind of wool it is, but it's all American wool. And like I said, she has a fingering weight as well if you wanted to do color work. It's just so soft. I feel like it must be like part Cormo or Rambouillet. Maybe it's Merino, I'm not sure, but it is just so soft and squishy and has really great stitch definition, which like I said is really important to most of my designs that I do. And like, so I brought two sweaters that I've recently finished in it. This is Free Folk, and this is knit up in that same yarn. And as you can see, it really shows off the twisted stitch pattern like really nicely. And then the other one is Earth Folk. It's another twisted stitch one. And I just love how crisp the pattern shows up. And like these colors are gorgeous. It's not a huge palette of colors, but there's so many of them that I love and I can't wait to design with next. So I got recently these two colors. I got full sweaters worth. So hopefully I'll be designing something with these for fall or winter. So again, that is home worsted weight from Barrett Yarn Co. And I can include a link to that as well below. And yeah, so that's the first question, I guess. The second question that I had is, I had a couple questions, so I kind of morphed them into one. People were asking about designing, basically how to get started designing if you're new to it, like not knowing kind of like the process, what I suggest about that, if I have like resources, that sort of thing. This could be a whole like 10-hour segment, so I'll just give you kind of the basics, and then if there are more specific questions in the future, I'm happy to try to answer. I can't teach like a full class on it through these, but I'd be happy to answer, you know, if there's more specific questions. But basically, in terms of designing, if you're new and you are interested in, maybe you have a stitch pattern you want to put onto a sweater, or an idea for a color work or something, and you want to put it on your own sweater or shawl pattern, the most important thing, like the thing that I wish someone had told me before I started designing, there's two things. One of them I'll save for later, but the one that I wanted to start with is, if you want to spend some time designing, the most important thing I think to do is to knit as many patterns as possible that are like already published, established patterns. And I would say like try to find ones that are from good sources. Either you know the designer and you know their work and you like how they write, or maybe a yarn company, something that's been tech edited and is written pretty well. And I think the more you can knit sweaters in particular, shawls are a little bit easier and kind of straightforward, but sweaters in particular, you want to understand how a sweater is constructed. And depending on the style, that there's so many different ways to knit a sweater. You can knit it in the round or flat. Some of them, like these two here, are drop shoulder. Some of them are top down with the yoke increases. Some are top down with raglan increases. There's just so many different ways to go about it. And when I first started designing, I had only knit like maybe 3 or 4 sweaters, a couple like, and then probably a handful of like baby size, kid size ones too, which kid size would be a good way to practice because they're smaller. But I had only knit a few, and so when I was starting to write patterns, it wasn't super intuitive. I think I just struggled a little bit with understanding the different parts of the pattern, I guess, is easy enough to say. And so I think if now I've knit like 100 sweaters probably or more. And so not every construction, but a lot of the constructions I'm pretty familiar with, especially the ones that I use often. And it's like really easy to go about doing it. But in the beginning, some of the constructions were new to me. And then when you're trying to design something you've never actually knit before, you can do it if you follow the math and stuff, but it's a little more complicated and definitely could benefit from practice first. So that being said, if you have knit like so many sweaters and you're all set and you're not worried about that aspect of it, I would say the first step is you're gonna kind of sketch out and plan out your design. Like for this one, I kind of just sketched out, I want something with texture and cables and then the general shape of it. Then you're gonna wanna swatch with your yarn and figure out what needle size you want, and you'll block your swatch and you're gonna measure out your gauge. Once you have a gauge that you're happy with how the fabric drapes and how the stitch pattern shows up, once you have that ready, then you use those numbers, you're gonna plug those into your pattern to do all the math. So this is what I can't go into in every detail, but I can give you like a general guideline of how the math works. Basically, you have your bust size of the finished garment, and you're gonna multiply that out by the gauge in your pattern. So if like this one was, I think was like 5 stitches per inch, if my bust was 36 inches, you're gonna multiply 36 by 5. There's your total stitch count. Then you might need to do some tweaking, like if your pattern maybe takes up the whole distance like this one did, you might need to tweak where the color work ends, or you might need to change the stitch count some so that something is fully represented and not cut off. Those are all things to consider. Then you're gonna wanna figure out the same, your upper arm circumference, your cuff circumference, and then when you're decreasing for sleeves, you're just gonna measure out how many rows you need and then work your decreases throughout that space as evenly as you can do. And so that's for something like this. For a top-down yoke sweater, it's similar. You're gonna get the numbers for your neck, the numbers for your bust, and all your sleeve measurements and the underarm measurements, and then you're gonna figure out where your increases need to go along that yoke. And that's like a very boiled down, brief kind of introduction to what you're gonna do. When I first started designing, there was one book that was really helpful to me, and I actually also took a Craftsy class with the designer who did the book. So this is the book. This is Shirley Payton's Knitwear Design Workshop, and I'm happy to put a link below to this. This is the book that I really first started. It gave me a really good understanding of what I was just talking to you about, measurements and that sort of thing. And she also had a Craftsy class years ago, and it may still be on there if you want to give that a look. She walked you through making a sweater, like from start to finish. And even if you didn't want to do that with her in the class, it might be beneficial to watch it and just see all the different steps. And this one in particular, I don't think she does any top down here, or maybe she has raglan top down, but it's more seamed garments and like structured garments than the top down yoke. She may have a top down yoke in here. I just can't remember. It's been a while since, but she's got lots of different shapes. It's really helpful for understanding. I know there are also books where they only talk about top down sweaters. I have one, I forget who wrote it, but if you did a search for like top down sweater design, I'm sure you could find it. And that can be helpful if that's the kind of sweater you're looking to design. So yeah, I hope those are little tidbits that might be helpful for you. The other thing I wanted to mention that I wish I knew first or I guess I wish I knew the importance of, I should say, is that I wish someone had told me. I wish that I had gotten a tech editor right from the start. The first like handful of patterns of mine, I did not have a tech editor. Some of them I've gone back and like fixed and adjusted, and other ones I think I like just took off Ravelry because it wasn't worth the time. But you definitely want a tech editor. And you can do a Google search. I know that there are a bunch on Instagram that chat about their work. So just reach out and contact a few and maybe see who you like working with. It's so important because no matter how much I think I've done everything perfectly in a pattern, my tech editor like almost always finds errors on that first go through. Sometimes just little things, other times it's like a lot of math errors because I was like trying to focus when my kids were home, or I don't know, messed up somehow. So she totally finds those errors, and we sometimes go back and forth. Sometimes she just tells me what it should be. They're also really great with just editing and grammar and simple things like that, misspellings, all that kind of stuff. But the actual meat of the pattern is obviously the most important of, does it work? Are the stitch counts correct? All that. And that's what they're for. And most, I think, run probably around $30 an hour, maybe a little more or less depending on how long they've been doing it. And some I know are like super booked up with designers, so they may not have space, but there are a lot out there and more. And so just do a little search and you'll find someone, and they might be able to, even if they just did one design for you and you could see, oh wow, that cost X amount, and then you can maybe budget out, like maybe I should just do one at a time, like one a month until I get a little more efficient at writing them. But all that kind of stuff you just kind of have to learn as you go. But tech editing is super important. It's really a bummer to find a pattern, and I've had this happen a few times, but find a pattern, an error in a pattern like right after you release it, and then you have to send out an update, and it's kind of just embarrassing to have it not go smoothly. So if you're looking to do something like you really want to sell the patterns, then I would definitely recommend having a tech editor. If you're just doing something for yourself, you want to design something, then whatever, you just work it for your size, but that's not a big deal. But if you're thinking of selling the patterns, I definitely recommend a tech editor. Yeah, so I have, let me see on here. I just have one more question and then we'll wrap up. So the last question I had was about, someone had noticed that I keep my yarn, as you can see over here, I keep it out on open shelves, and they asked if I have problems with moths and why do I do it that way, I guess. They were wondering, like, don't you get problems with moths? What do you recommend for that sort of thing? And sometimes I do have moths down here. I like my yarn being out because if it's put away somewhere, then I can't see it, and then I can't, if I'm thinking of a new design, I don't want to be like ruffling through bins and trying to figure out what size weight do I have and what colors and like how much do I have, do I need to order more? That's all just like a headache to me. And so I like to have it out, and I like to feel it and look at it. And it's probably not the smartest thing in terms of moths, but I haven't had any major problems yet with like tons of moths and like things getting destroyed. I think the best thing to do if you're worried about them is probably to put them in bins and to make sure they're all clean, like inspect them first, like make sure you don't have any like webs or moth eggs or whatever, I don't know what they look like, but on your yarn, and then put them in bins and store them somewhere. And the same for garments. If you want to be really smart about it, you should probably wash them and then put them in bins and keep them somewhere safe. But I keep mine out because I like to wear them often, and I use them for showing off, like on Instagram and stuff. That's my dog. And yeah, so I like to have them accessible and out. And this is Taza. She's our puppy. She's not supposed to be up. But yeah, so if you want to be really safe, I would say make sure to store them properly. And I bet there's a lot of wisdom online as well, but I just keep mine out. And the one thing that I do that I think is helpful is a friend of mine recommended this. I just found them online. They're moth traps. It's like Dr. Killigan's, it's called. I don't know, there might be other brands. This is the one that I found. And they're these little traps that set up. Let me go grab one from over here. Oh, and there's totally moths in this one, so I need to replace it. But this is what they look like. They're meant, I think, to hang in your closet. That's why they have this thing. But I keep them a few up on my shelves with my yarn, and then I have another couple near where some of my sweaters are. And on the inside, there's like a bunch in there now. I'm the worst. So they get stuck to this paper in there, but I guess it's like pheromones that are on it. And I don't really know how that works, but it somehow attracts the moths, and then they get stuck on here and then they're gone. So I need to replace mine, obviously. I'll do that when I'm done here today. But that, I think, has been great. For a while, I didn't see any on the traps, and I thought, oh, okay, great, I don't have a moth problem. And then eventually I did see some on there. So maybe it takes a little bit of time to work, but I find that they work pretty well. And then just making sure that, you're checking your sweaters and yarn from time to time. Like if you get your sweater out, just kind of like if it's folded, just check and make sure there's nothing on it, like no webs or anything like that. And if there is, you can clear that area out really well and just hopefully make sure they don't come back. But like I said, I haven't had any major issues, thankfully, with mine yet. So yeah, I hope that's a little bit helpful to you. And I guess that's all the questions I'm prepared for today. So thank you for tuning in. And if you had follow-up questions on designing, something like more particular that you were wondering about, or anything else, techniques, knitting related, let me know. I'm gonna have the link below in the show notes that is gonna be a link to where you can submit those questions. And again, like I said before, if that page is not working properly for you, if it's not letting you enter that in and submit it, just leave me a comment below, like on this post, and I'll see it and I'll try to go back. I'm not the most tech savvy person out there, so there's a chance that I won't be able to fix it. But if it's a problem for more than like a couple of you, I will do my best to try to fix that or find a different way to make place for you to submit questions. And yeah, I'll also have a link below to my email newsletter. If you want to be like the first one to find out about new patterns like Lola Chic or all the other ones I have coming down the line, I like to share little tidbits on those too. Sometimes I'll link to a tutorial that I've made, a specific one for a pattern. Sometimes I will share just little bits about books that I'm reading or recipes that I like, things like that. So it's just kind of a fun way to see new patterns coming into your inbox so you don't miss them. Typically when I release a pattern, I will have a sale for that first like 4 or 5 days or so, where it's a pretty good sale. And then after that, it goes to normal price. And so if you're not on Instagram that often, and I know that the algorithm's been really weird and different lately, I feel like, so not everybody's seeing every post. So if you follow me there, but you maybe miss patterns sometimes, like that new release window, the best way to make sure that you get the discount is to sign up for my newsletter. And yeah, I guess that's it for today. I look forward to jumping back in with you next week, and I hope to have some more questions to answer for you then. Bye.